The man accidentally dropped his newborn son and killed him, but his first reaction was to put the baby back into the stroller, because he had no idea how to explain it to his wife. But by a terrible coincidence his wife came home earlier than expected, and there was still a trace of blood left on the doorknob, but she didn't notice it at all. She was about to see what was inside the stroller, so in panic the man stopped her.
María, ya lo vigilo yo, ¿vale? Ponte tú con la comida, yo me encargo.
When the woman heard what he said, she thought her usually weak and irresponsible husband had finally become a real father. She was even a little happy and went to prepare dinner without worry, but after watching his wife leave, Hess was completely terrified. The overwhelming fear had consumed all his rationality. He truly regretted everything. He regretted why he insisted on buying that damn coffee table. If it wasn't for his pride, his son might never have died. The story begins without any horror setup. Instead, it starts with the ordinary struggles of a young couple. Hess and Maria had just welcomed their newborn baby boy. It should have been the happiest moment for their new family of 3, but their marriage had already been filled with cracks. Maria was strong, capable, and extremely controlling. From their child's name, to his daily schedule, and every little thing in the house, she controlled everything herself. Meanwhile, Hess was weak, lazy, and had no opinions of his own. He had spent years living under his wife's control and constantly giving in, which caused him to hide endless frustration inside. After suppressing himself for so long, Hess desperately needed something to prove his place in the family. And the thing that changed everything started with a simple furniture purchase. The couple went to a furniture store to choose a coffee table. The salesperson recommended a table with a flashy design, a glass coffee table decorated with 2 golden statues of women. The table looked strange and the glass was extremely thin. It looked incredibly fragile. It was neither practical nor safe for their home. Maria strongly opposed the idea. She repeatedly tried to convince her husband to choose another one, but this time Hess, who always obeyed her, refused. He didn't care whether the table was useful or safe. He only wanted to make one decision for himself. Seeing that she couldn't change his mind, Maria angrily pushed their son away and left. Hess took the chance to pay for it. He bought the coffee table that would change the fate of his entire family. To save money on delivery, Hess carried the coffee table alone up to their 6th-floor apartment. After returning home, Hess began assembling his new coffee table himself. He hoped it would make the house look better, and prove that his choice was not wrong. But soon Hess discovered that one screw was missing from the package, making the glass tabletop extremely unstable. With no other option, he called the salesperson, and asked them to send the missing part as soon as possible. Maria watched everything from the side. She decided to ignore it and avoid the trouble. After quickly cleaning up, she prepared to buy more household supplies, so she left Hess at home to take care of their newborn son alone. As soon as Maria left, her newborn son seemed to sense that something was about to happen, and started crying loudly. Hess had no choice but to pick him up.
¿Y la mesita? ¿Eh? ¿Te gusta la mesita al nene? ¿Le gusta la mesita al nene? La mesita al nene. ¿Eh? ¿Le gusta? ¿Eh? Mira la mesita. Mira la mesita al nene. ¿Está la mesita al nene? Qué bonita la mesa del nene, ¿eh? ¿Has visto?
Then a sudden sound of glass shattering filled the room, and the baby's cries suddenly stopped. Hess originally wanted his son to see his unique choice, so he placed him on the coffee table. But because the table was missing a screw for support, the glass surface could not handle the pressure and suddenly broke. The sharp pieces caused a terrible accident. By the time Hess realized what happened, it was already too late. His newborn son was lost in the accident caused by the coffee table he insisted on buying. Meanwhile, Maria ran into an old friend she had not seen for years at the supermarket. She happily invited her friend to visit their home and meet the baby. She kept praising her husband to her friend, saying Hess was willing to sacrifice his time to take care of their child, so she could finally go out and relax for a while. But what she never expected was that her loving husband was already completely overwhelmed by fear. He just stood there staring at his injured son. At that moment, his wife's call pulled Hess back to reality. He answered the phone.
Sí.
Jesús, te voy a pasar a alguien que te quiere saludar.
¿Qué pasa, papi chulo? ¡Felicidades! ¿Qué me han dicho que has traído un Cayetanito al mundo, eh?
His friend's words felt like a heavy blow to Hess. He picked up his son and placed him on the sofa. As he looked at his son, he suddenly noticed an unpleasant smell. It turned out the baby had been crying because he needed a diaper change. But as a father, Hess knew nothing about taking care of a baby. He kept trying to comfort and play with him, which eventually led to this tragedy. He took out a new diaper and changed it for his son. It was the first time he had ever done this, and also the last time. At the same time, his wife's call came in again. Hess answered without thinking, but because of his fear, before his wife could finish speaking, he quickly hung up. At that moment, only one thought filled his mind. It's over, everything is over. His wife would break down and blame him. Everyone would laugh at him for his stubborn mistake that caused this tragedy. His selfishness and weakness pushed him into making a shocking decision. He decided to hide the truth and cover up what happened. He placed his son back into the stroller. Then he began desperately trying to clean up the scene. But since he rarely did any housework, he did not even know where the cleaning supplies were. After searching everywhere without success, he had no choice but to borrow some from his neighbor. But when the neighbor opened the door and saw Hess covered in blood, he was completely shocked.
Uy, ¿y esas manchas?
Estoy pintando una habitación de rojo. Es que necesito producto de limpieza. Mañana lo devuelvo.
Mejor esta tarde. Esta tarde nos lo devuelves, ya pasaré yo a buscarlo.
At that moment Hess did not hear what the neighbor's child said, without realizing that those words would push him into an even worse situation. Before he could even bring the borrowed supplies inside, he ran into the salesperson who came to deliver the missing screw. Seeing the salesperson again, Hess felt an uncontrollable anger rising inside him. The salesperson kindly offered to come inside and fix the table, but Hess would never allow that. He took the screw and prepared to send him away, but the salesman didn't leave right away. Instead, he pulled out a lottery ticket from his pocket. Hess forced himself to stay calm and closed the door. The salesman had no idea Hess had already won his prize, but while other winners would step into paradise, his prize was a one-way ticket into hell. Hess tried to calm himself down, then he hurried to clean up the aftermath. He first gathered all the broken glass into a bag, then he grabbed a mop and started cleaning the carpet, but no matter what he tried the stains would not come out. All he could do was kneel down and scrub the floor desperately. Then he suddenly noticed something had rolled underneath the chair. His trembling hand slowly reached out to pick it up, but halfway there, he suddenly pulled his hand back. That was the son he and his wife had struggled so hard to have. Hess was overwhelmed with pain as if something was stuck in his chest. Just then his phone rang again. His wife texted him saying she would be home in 30 minutes. He quickly went to the bathroom and washed himself clean. Then he wrapped the wound on his hand. After that he just sat there motionless on the couch, leaving behind a tear of regret. But his regret did not last very long, because the doorbell rang and his wife was home. Hess's heart instantly sank. He unconsciously walked toward the balcony, thinking about ending everything, but the doorbell kept ringing in his ears, and Hess still couldn't bring himself to do it. He forced himself to stay calm and opened the door. The moment the door opened, Maria's complaints came rushing in. She questioned why he took so long to answer the door. Hess could only say he had just gotten their son to sleep. The sweat caused by his fear and nervousness became the perfect excuse at that moment. Maria knew taking care of a baby was not easy. Seeing how exhausted Hess looked, she stopped blaming him. Instead, she secretly felt a little more respect for him. But when she stepped inside and saw the mess in the living room, Maria was completely stunned. Hess quickly explained that he accidentally broke the glass and injured his hand, which was why there was blood everywhere. But what Hess never expected was, after hearing his explanation, Maria actually looked excited.
Cristal irrompible de 100 cutre del vendedor. Anda, que qué buena lección has hecho, mi niño, te felicito. Has llenado de gloria.
His wife's inappropriate sarcasm left Hess frozen in place, and tears uncontrollably filled his eyes. Meanwhile, Maria in the kitchen looked like she had finally released her anger, still laughing without holding back. Her laughter struck another painful blow to Hess's heart. He slowly walked into the kitchen pretending to help her cook, but the confident Maria still continued making fun of him. Maria's happiness and Hess's pain created a shocking contrast. Watching her husband stay silent after being mocked, Maria felt even more satisfied. Hess didn't dare say anything and could only keep cutting vegetables. But suddenly his wife took off her apron and prepared to check on their son. Hess instantly snapped out of his suffocating emotions. Hess instinctively tightened his grip on the kitchen knife and followed behind his wife. As his wife was about to see what was inside the baby stroller, Hess quickly stopped her. Seeing the look on Hess's face, his wife thought she had taken her joke too far, so she immediately apologized to him. And seeing that Hess finally showed some responsibility as a husband and father, Maria felt a little happy. She even started imagining a beautiful future for their family. But everything she said only made Hess suffer even more. Was Hess really in pain? The answer was yes. But besides the pain, there was endless panic, anxiety, and fear. He was terrified that his lie would be exposed. He wasn't only afraid that his son's death would break his wife, he was even more afraid of the blame and the guilt he would have to carry. The two of them returned to the kitchen, worried that their son might wake up, and they wouldn't hear him crying from the kitchen. Maria placed the baby monitor nearby, but soon Hess heard something coming through it. A strange dripping sound, almost like drops of water hitting the ground. Feeling something was wrong, Maria immediately wanted to check the room. Hess could only stop her, and went inside himself, only to discover what had happened inside the stroller. The sound was coming from drops falling onto the floor. That endless dripping sound felt like a hammer striking Hess's heart again and again. After quickly dealing with it, Hess returned to the living room, but then he thought he heard his son's cry coming from the baby monitor. His mind instantly went blank. He didn't know if it was lucky or unlucky. The doorbell suddenly rang. It turned out his brother had come over with his girlfriend, but Hess was in no mood to entertain them. He forced himself to greet them. His brother had already heard that Hess broke the glass and hurt his hand, so he assumed Hess was upset because of that and didn't think much about it. But his brother's girlfriend followed the stains on the carpet and noticed something unusual. Hess immediately panicked and grabbed a piece of paper to clean it up. Seeing this, his brother kindly suggested to his wife Maria.
Las manchas de sangre son jodidas, ¿eh?
Ya.
Pero creo que con pasta de dientes se van.
Then his brother suggested going to see his nephew. Hess quickly made an excuse saying he had just managed to get the baby to sleep. Seeing Hess acting this way, his brother's girlfriend quickly tried to ease the situation, and took out the gift she prepared for the baby. Looking at the cute little outfit, Maria couldn't wait to see her son wearing it.
Venga, va, vamos a ponerse lo que quiero ver.
He dicho que ahora no se puede, que está durmiendo, coño.
Tío, tranquilo.
Hess's anxiety made him lose control of his emotions. His brother quickly noticed something was wrong, and kept asking Hess what happened, but Hess still refused to tell the truth. Seeing this, Maria decided to ignore him. She walked toward the baby's room with her brother's girlfriend. His brother had already realized something serious had happened, but since Hess didn't want to talk, he turned around and followed them. Hess nervously squeezed the gift his brother brought and followed behind, but when they reached the baby's room, everyone was still afraid of waking the sleeping child. They didn't go straight to the crib. Instead, they looked around the room first. This gave Hess, who had already accepted his fate, a moment of relief. Under Hess's nervous gaze, the three of them only looked around the room before sitting down at the table. At the dinner table, Maria kept telling her brother's girlfriend how wonderful it was to become a mother. Listening to his wife's words, Hess became even more uneasy. Compared to his wife's love for their son, his own love seemed so insignificant. Hess could only keep drinking beside them and eat to hide his anxiety and fear. But when he saw the fried chicken covered in ketchup, he suddenly thought of his son's head under the chair. The unbearable pressure made him start hallucinating. Luckily, his brother pulled out an ultrasound photo and snapped Hess back to reality. He announced to everyone that he was about to become a father too. Maria was instantly filled with joy, but Hess couldn't feel happy at all. After holding it in for a long time, he finally said one sentence.
Que haya dejado embarazada a una pobre chavala de 18 años me importa una mierda ahora mismo. Trata de no cagas historias y lo sabes. Te vas a complicar un poquito más la asistencia y le vas a joder la vida a ella. Y sigue, tío, así por la mesita. Comprar esa mesita ha sido el mayor error que he cometido en mi vida. Voy al baño.
A broken Hess hid in the bathroom and recorded what he thought would be his final words. He finally couldn't hold it together anymore, and slowly revealed the entire truth. His recording was heard clearly by his brother, who followed him out of concern. The truth was completely exposed. There was no way to hide the lie anymore. Hess took his brother to see what was inside the crib. His brother said this could never be kept secret. At this point, they could only figure out how to tell Maria and minimize the damage it would cause her. While the brothers were discussing what to do, the doorbell rang again. The neighbor's little girl came with her puppy to get back the cleaning supplies Hess borrowed. Hess had completely forgotten about returning them. His mind was only focused on how to explain everything to his wife. Seeing Hess stay silent, the girl angrily put down her puppy and refused to leave. She just stood there watching Hess, but the puppy suddenly followed the stains on the floor and ran toward the chair. When it saw what was underneath the chair, it started barking wildly. The two brothers instantly became terrified and covered in sweat. Only Maria was still completely confused. When the girl went to pick up her puppy, she also noticed what was under the chair. His brother quickly stepped forward, pushed the girl away and picked it up, not letting Maria see it immediately. But seeing the puppy covered in blood, Maria finally realized something was wrong.
¿Y qué escondes ahí, Carlos?
¡Es una cabeza!
The truth eventually fell into Maria's hands. The moment she saw her son, Maria completely broke down. She cried out in unbearable grief. She instinctively wanted to hold her son tightly, but the child who once filled her arms was no longer the same. Holding what remained of her son, Maria walked toward the balcony and jumped. Then Hess followed right after her. In just a few short hours, a small argument, a moment of pride and stubbornness, and an act of cowardly avoidance destroyed the lives of an entire family. The sound of sirens broke the silence of the neighborhood. Police and medical workers surrounded the apartment building. The once happy family of three ended with a heartbreaking tragedy that took everything away. The movie never shows any terrifying scenes, yet through an extremely realistic story, it creates the most complete and hopeless kind of horror. Many viewers couldn't recover from it for a long time after finishing the film. Why did such a small incident turn into a tragedy that destroyed an entire family of three? The real cause was never the glass table, but the chain collapse caused by ordinary human flaws. Hess's tragedy represents all those who are insecure and obsessed with saving face. Those ordinary people who avoid problems and refuse to take responsibility. At the beginning, he insisted on buying the table just to challenge his wife's control, just to win a meaningless sense of dignity. After the accident happened, he didn't call for help or tell the truth. It wasn't because he was heartless. It was because he was extremely weak. He was too afraid to face the consequences of his mistake. And most devastating tragedies in real life are never caused by villains doing evil, but by ordinary people's stubbornness, their luck-driven choices, pride and irresponsibility. That's the end of today's story. I'm Matt. See you next time.